Welcome to AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown. I'm LaPortia. Right now, I'm here to guide you through the biggest stories of the day. Here's our pick for number 4.
Growing up, I loved the space program. But nobody doing that stuff looked like me.
The Space Race explores the history and progress of black astronauts, including former astronaut and NASA educator Leland Melvin.
It was just natural to be part of this, and then to be able to interact with, Ed Dwight, one of my heroes.
I was told by friends and enemies alike, you're 20 years too soon, buddy.
Ed Dwight was the first black U.S. astronaut candidate amid the civil rights struggles of 1963.
I would have made it to the moon. One small step for man. They were not going to let that happen.
Dwight says he's grateful for the chance to set the record straight.
All these past stories that have been put in the press to justify my not going into space.
To see a black man in space, it would have changed things.
The directors say each astronaut they interviewed told them they also had to talk with someone else.
I'm here because others paved the way for me. You need to, learn their stories to understand mine. And then their goal is always to make sure that once they've opened those doors, that other people are going to come behind them.
We wanted to sit with them and hear their unfiltered, emotional journeys.
Like Victor Glover, who spent more than 6 months on the International Space Station as protests over the death of George Floyd continued on Earth, prompting a call with other current and former black astronauts.
I was blown away to see all of these names pop up on the screen. Mae Jemison, Charlie Bolden, Guy Bluford.
They were all saying, what can we do for you? How can we help you?
Black history is American history. We forget it at our peril.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
The Advocate Channel looks at the world through the lens of equality, community, hope, and inclusion. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our pick for number 3.
Pick out all your jammies.
It can happen in an instant. Curious children climbing on furniture with dangerous consequences.
When you have something that does heavy falling on a child, it can result in death.
In a new report, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission says nearly 18,000 people are hurt in tip-over incidents every year.
Children are impacted more than anybody else. So over the last 10 years, there have been over 200 deaths associated with tip-overs.
Of those deaths, the report says nearly half involved a television, and more than half of those involved children between 1 and 3 years old. But others are at risk too. The research shows more adults ages 60 and above are also being sent to the emergency room after furniture tipped over. All clothing storage furniture manufactured after September 1st, 2023 has to meet updated safety measures laid out by the CPSC. But no matter when your furniture was made, the agency says it should be anchored to the wall.
You go to the hardware store, and for less than $20, you can go back and anchor it into the wall in about 20 minutes.
The website anchorit.gov has step-by-step instructions and videos on how to secure furniture to help prevent a tragedy. For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
The Advocate Channel is now streaming live on Amazon Prime in the News app. Watch us there or go to advocatechannel.com. AC 24/7 continues with today's number 2 pick.
Well, for weeks there has been concern around the situation facing civilians in Rafah. This is an area, of course, where, as we know, some 1.3 million people are now concentrated. Hundreds of thousands of civilians who were evacuated to Rafah, many of them taking shelter in these sprawling tent cities. At least 100 are said to have been killed during that overnight operation by the Israeli military. That's according to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. And of course, the warning that we've heard from the Red Crescent is that that figure could certainly continue to rise. That there are still people believed to be buried beneath the rubbles of buildings struck and damaged during that overnight operation. At least a dozen residential buildings are said to have been damaged and struck, according to local municipality officials. And another 2 mosques also said to have been struck. We've been hearing from local officials from the Palestine Red Crescent, which has reported that Israeli helicopters were firing were firing machine guns around the border region, which separates Egypt from Gaza in Rafah. This is an area where we have seen tents pushed up right against the border, civilians sheltering there. And of course, what has been the primary concern for many in recent days is this looming threat of a ground operation by the Israeli military. Now, this overnight operation is, of course, said to have been focused on rescuing and securing the release of 2 Israeli hostages. We have seen, of course, the devastating impact that operation has had on the Palestinian civilian population now sheltering in Rafah. But we are still hearing warnings of a further encroachment by the Israeli military. We have seen airstrikes for weeks, but this would be a ground operation, according to the Israeli military, targeting Hamas. But it is difficult to imagine how this will be carried out without exacting a devastating impact on the civilian population. We've certainly heard the warnings from international aid groups, the Norwegian Refugee Council warning that any sort of operation on the ground would turn Rafah into what they've described as a zone of bloodshed. US President Joe Biden, again, reiterating that call for civilians to be protected. We've heard from the White House saying that the Biden administration could not support or approve an operation on the ground without a credible and executable plan for civilians to be evacuated. We know that Israeli troops have been directed to prepare for a mass evacuation, but the warning from many, including the United Nations, is that there is simply nowhere else safe left for civilians to turn.
The Advocate Channel is your news source for news, entertainment, and trending stories. We're highlighting the advocates in our community. We have now arrived at our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
In the short time we've been here, this packet of fentanyl was seized in the mail. The sender of this envelope now under federal investigation.
The deadly drug detected by artificial intelligence. Its street value?
About $100,000 worth of fentanyl.
Every piece of mail, every package entering the United States is scanned by CBP. Right now, that's done by X-ray, with officers staring at images across their screen. And if they become suspicious, they open the package up to determine whether a threat's inside.
But AI could revolutionize the way U.S. Customs and Border Protection does battle against smugglers.
We're here near Los Angeles International Airport in a facility that processes over 240 million packages every single year. Officers seizing numerous items, including counterfeit merchandise, illegal food, as well as precursors to the deadly drug fentanyl. Now, in order to help stop America's fentanyl epidemic, officers are now relying on artificial intelligence, like this system. A package is sent through this main system called IDSS. This is similar to what you might find in a hospital or at an airport. A 3D image is taken and then sent to what's called the student. This is the HALO system, artificial intelligence at work. Unlike old technologies such as X-rays, this system is constantly learning and teaching itself.
The mission of this AI system, part of a CBP pilot program, is to identify patterns, how smugglers are concealing fentanyl in order to evade detection.
At the end of the whole process, this system will get a grade. After scanning 10,000 images, an officer will look to determine how well the system actually did, determine whether this is the type of machine that CBP might want to roll out to its multiple facilities across the nation.
Imagine all the information that's coming at our officers and agents. They're the best in the world at what they do, but they need help distilling that information so you can make an informed decision.
Something's going on here, something's not right.
But there is another important byproduct of this sophisticated technology.
If I, as the officer, can look at some kind of device and say, you know what, big red flag, red alert, yeah, then I could actually follow the proper protocols, isolate, notify the proper people, and then take care of it without getting too close and endanger myself or others.
This pilot program is currently being used for cargo arriving by air to LAX. CBP hopes to expand the use of AI to other critical points of entry into the United States, like the Port of Los Angeles, the busiest port in the nation, and at the border, a major point of origin for fentanyl entering the U.S. drug supply, killing thousands. One looming question, with well-funded drug cartels known to adopt advanced technology of their own, how long will AI provide U.S. authorities a cutting-edge advantage to stay ahead of the threat?
It's an incredibly challenging mission set, something that's probably the most challenging that I've seen in my 30 years in law enforcement. But as a father of an 8-year-old daughter, as a husband, it's incredibly important. We take it personally at Customs and Border Protection, and we're going to do everything we can to keep this poison off the streets.